Randy Moss is undeniably one of the best wide receivers in NFL history. Moss was a true one-of-a-kind talent. His size, speed, hands, and leaping ability were unmatched throughout the league, making him an absolute nightmare for defenses. The man's a four-time first-team All-Pro, six-time Pro Bowler, five-time receiving touchdowns leader, 98 Offensive Rookie of the Year, holds the single-season touchdown reception record, is second on the all-time regular season touchdown reception list, and he got inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2018. He spent most of his 14-year NFL career with the Minnesota Vikings, who drafted him with the 21st pick in 1998, and for several years, Randy Moss was the focal point of Minnesota's offense. And with several great seasons and team receiving records, there is no doubt that Randy Moss is one of the greatest players to ever play for the Minnesota Vikings. But, unfortunately, due to several playoff losses and heartbreaking moments, Randy Moss never won a Super Bowl in Minnesota. And after Moss got into trouble multiple times for his work habits and antics on and off the field, and another playoff loss to the Eagles, the Vikings had enough, and Randy Moss was traded to the Oakland Raiders for Napoleon Harris, a first-round pick, and seventh-round picks. Randy Moss was no longer in Minnesota. So, how did Randy Moss continue his career after leaving the Vikings? Yeah, not many people like to talk about the time Randy Moss was a Raider, but let's not pretend like it didn't happen. Coming off his worst season with the Vikings, now with the Raiders, Moss was happy to have a fresh start. He was very excited to be in Oakland, being part of the Raider tradition, playing for Al Davis, who has had a long history of collecting other teams' renegade players and winning with them. Raider fans were excited, of course. I mean, how can they not be? They just got one of the best receivers to ever play the game, and along with Jerry Porter coming off the best season of his career, who had also just signed a contract extension, Kerry Collins now had two great receivers to revive the Raiders' downfield passing game. Kerry fucking Collins. I mean, just look at this. No wonder y'all went 5-11 last year. Okay, moving on. With the Raiders improving their offense by bringing in Moss and running back Lamont Jordan, there was optimism for this team going into the 2005 season. Moss was looking to redeem himself with this new offense in Oakland after having the worst season of his career in Minnesota. The season began, and Randy Moss was back to being, well, Randy Moss. He had a good first year with Oakland, 60 receptions, 1,005 yards, and 8 touchdowns. His running back Lamont Jordan had a pretty good season of his own as well, rushing for 1,025 yards and 9 touchdowns on 272 carries. But while Kerry Collins wasn't too bad this year, throwing for 3,759 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, the Raiders had a pretty rough season. They led the league in team penalties for the third straight year, and they ended the season with a 6-game losing streak. They finished this season with a 4-12 record. Meanwhile, the Vikings in their first season without Randy Moss, despite being 8-3 for the first 11 games, finished with a 9-7 record, missing the playoffs as the second seed in the NFC North. After the season ended, the Raiders fired head coach Norv Turner and replaced him with Angell. They also released Kerry Collins to free up some cap space. Charles Woodson, after another year sidelined by an injury, would go on to sign a 7-year, $52 million contract with the Green Bay Packers. Jerry Porter asked to be traded because he was pissed at Angell. It didn't happen, so he got suspended for 4 games. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys can already tell this is about to get ugly. The 2006 season was horrendous. Playing for one of the worst offenses in NFL history, Randy Moss would go on to have the worst season of his NFL career up to that point. I find it funny that the 2006 Raiders had the worst offense in the league, but also had one of the best defenses in the league. Top 3, like what the fuck? So yeah, the Raiders had one of their worst seasons in franchise history, finishing with a 2-14 record, their worst record since 1961. After the season was over, a frustrated Randy Moss decided that it was time for change once again. After coming off an abysmal second season with Oakland, Randy Moss wanted out. He wanted another fresh start. You know, he was almost traded to the Packers for Aaron Rodgers, which, like, imagine if that happened. Well, that would have been crazy. However, luckily for Moss, there was an evil empire in the AFC East willing to take a chance on him. And because of the season that he had in 2006, they didn't have to give up a lot of assets. So just like that, Randy Moss now had the freshest new start he could ask for. as he was traded to the New England Patriots for a 4th-round pick. At the time, the Raiders thought that this was the best scenario for both their organization and Randy Moss, and holy shit, boy, were they wrong. Instead, this would turn out to be one of the most lopsided trades in NFL history. Moss was very excited to be a Patriot. I mean, of course, how could he not be? Last year, he was playing for one of the worst offenses of all time, but now he has another chance to redeem himself with one of the best teams in the NFL. I mean, come on. When your head coach is Bill Belichick and your quarterback is Tom fucking Brady, that's how you know great things are coming. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I think you already know how the story goes. A reborn Randy Moss was part of one of the greatest offenses in NFL history. Moss had another amazing season, 98 receptions, 1,493 yards, and a record-breaking 23 touchdowns in 2007. Wes Welker finished the season with 112 receptions, which was the most in the NFL, 1,175 yards and 8 touchdowns. And with the MVP Tom Brady having a remarkable season of his own, this offense was unstoppable. Literally. The 2007 New England Patriots had the greatest regular season in NFL history, becoming the first ever team to finish with a 16-0 undefeated record. A perfect season. No question, one of the most dominant teams of all time. Certainly, when they finished this legendary season with a Super Bowl win, they can be considered the greatest team in NFL history. In the playoffs, New England breezed past the Jacksonville Jaguars in the divisional round and overcame the San Diego Chargers in the AFC Championship to advance to Super Bowl 42 against the New York Giants. Finally, for the first time in his career, Randy Moss is playing in the Super Bowl. It had been an incredible run for his Patriots, and they were looking to cap it all off with a Super Bowl victory. I mean, come on, they're not about to lose to the fucking Giants. They've had the most historic run for a wildcard team ever, but come on, you really think they stand a chance against the Patriots? Come on now, be real. Super Bowl 42 was a defensive slugfest. Both teams' defenses dominated until it came down to the last few minutes. After the Giants took the lead with a touchdown catch from David Tyree, the Patriots would then drive down the field, and on 3rd and goal with 2 minutes and 45 seconds left in the 4th quarter, Randy Moss came in clutch.
Brady throws, Moss, touchdown!
Just like that, New England was in the lead with 2 minutes and 42 seconds left in the 4th quarter. It looked like the Patriots had their perfect season. All they had to do was stop this Giants offense from Actually, you know what? Fuck this. You already know what happened.
Stays on his feet, airs it out down the field. Manning lobs it, Burris alone, touchdown New York! Brady steps up, throws, downfield, broken up. The Giants have won the Super Bowl.
Man, it is still unreal to think that New England lost this game. No doubt one of, if not the biggest upset in NFL history. Okay, let's move on and talk about the 2008 season. This season for the Patriots usually gets forgotten, but it was pretty interesting. Hey, you know, losing in the Super Bowl hurts, but you have a chance to redeem yourselves. It's a new season. Surely it can't get any worse. Are you fucking... That's just great. Only one game into the regular season and Tom Brady is out for the year. But you know what? Matt Castle comes in and he's actually not that bad. He threw for 3,693 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Randy Moss finished the season with 69 receptions, 1,008 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Still a far cry from last year. Even without Tom Brady, though, he can still reach over 1,000 receiving yards. Wes Welker was actually the only Pro Bowler on this Patriots offense. 111 receptions, 1,165 yards, and 3 touchdowns. The Patriots finished the 2008 season with an 11-5 record. Not as good as last year, of course, but still a pretty good season, right? Yet they somehow missed the fucking playoffs. For fuck's sake. Because Miami and Baltimore had a better conference record, the 2008 Patriots became the first 11-win team since the 1985 Broncos to miss the playoffs. It was the Patriots' first playoff miss since 2002. Let's move on to the 2009 season. There were a bunch of changes in the offseason. Josh McDaniels became the head coach of the Broncos, Matt Castle and Mike Vrabel were traded to the Chiefs, Teddy Bruschi and Rodney Harrison retired, and Richard Seymour was traded to the Raiders. Tom Brady was back though, and he and Randy Moss picked up right where they left off. Tom Brady was the league's comeback player of the year, throwing for 4,398 yards and 28 touchdowns. Although he wasn't a Pro Bowler, Randy Moss continued to make history, finishing with 83 receptions, 1,264 yards, and a league-leading 13 touchdowns, becoming the 7th player in NFL history to reach 14,000 receiving yards, and the 11th player in NFL history with more than 900 receptions. And he passed Terrell Owens to become second place for all-time receiving touchdowns. The Patriots finished the season with a 10-6 record, winning the AFC East. In the playoffs, they would meet the 9-7 Baltimore Ravens in the wild card round. Wait, did I just say wild card? What the fuck? Most people thought this game would be close and the Patriots would win because, well, duh, Patriots gonna Patriot. And then Ray Rice just casually scored on the first play of the game. It was the second longest run in NFL playoff history. Baltimore converted 3 first-quarter turnovers into 17 points. The Ravens scored 24 fucking points in the first quarter. New England couldn't recover, and just like that, season over, Ravens win. It was New England's first home loss of the season and their first home loss in the playoffs in more than 30 years. Fantastic. Moving on to the 2010 season. Yeah, things got pretty weird this year for Randy Moss. This was his final year as a Patriot. He was dissatisfied over not receiving a new contract before the season, so he believed that this year would be his last with the Patriots. Through the first 4 games of the season with the Pats, Moss only had 9 receptions for 139 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was apparent on the field that Moss was declining and that his future at age 33 and with a history of uneven effort was going to play out elsewhere. And that elsewhere was Minnesota. The Patriots stunningly traded a 7th-round pick and Randy Moss back to the Minnesota Vikings for a 3rd-round pick. Unexpectedly, Moss was back in Minnesota, and no shit, Vikings fans were excited. But unfortunately, nobody talks about this homecoming nowadays because it wasn't pretty. Moss only played 4 games with the Vikings in 2010, having only 13 receptions, 174 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So why was this stint so short? Because of his ego, of course. Following a 28-18 loss to the Patriots, Moss threw his coach and teammates under the bus in a press conference. He reportedly told Vikings owner Ziggy Wilf that he wanted head coach Brad Childress to be fired. Wilf was actually considering firing Childress and keeping Moss, but the next day, Moss was waived, and it's funny, 20 days later he would also fire Childress. Moss would eventually find himself with another team though, yet another fresh start, as he would join the only team to submit a claim for him, the Tennessee Titans. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that. I don't think anyone remembers anything about Randy Moss's stint with the Titans. He played the remaining 8 games of the season, having only 6 receptions for 80 yards and no touchdowns, finishing the season with the worst numbers of his NFL career. The Titans finished the season with a 6-10 record. Oh yeah, and so did the Vikings. Both were last place in their division. The Patriots, meanwhile, without Randy Moss, finished with a 14-2 record, the best in the league, before losing to the Jets in the divisional round. After the season was over, the Titans stated that they did not plan to re-sign Randy Moss for next season and he was a free agent. Instead of signing with another team, Moss decided it was time to call it a career. At 34 years old, after 13 seasons of numerous ups and downs, Randy Moss officially retired from the NFL in 2011. And just like that, the career of one of the greatest receivers in NFL history was officially over. Or so it seemed. On his 35th birthday, in a live video chat with his fans, Randy Moss announced that he was coming out of retirement and was ready to play football again. And it was made official in early March of 2012 when Randy Moss signed a 1-year, $2.5 million contract with the San Francisco 49ers. After a year away from football, he's got another chance to show the world he still got it at age 35. Randy Moss was back. Of Of course, Moss wasn't the same player as he was in his prime, but for his age, he was pretty solid as a role player. The Week 1 game versus the Packers saw Moss catch his 154th touchdown reception, and subsequently passed Terrell Owens for sole possession of second place on the all-time receiving touchdown list. And after Alex Smith got injured against the Rams in Week 10, Colin Kaepernick took over as the 49ers quarterback, and Moss had at least 2 receptions in each of the remaining 5 games of the regular season. Randy Moss finished the 2012 season with 28 receptions for 434 yards and 3 touchdowns. And the 49ers would finish with an 11-4-1 record, winning the NFC West. In the playoffs, San Francisco would beat the Packers in the divisional round and overcame a 17-point deficit in the NFC Championship versus the Falcons to advance to Super Bowl 47. The largest comeback in an NFC Championship game, of course, the Falcons would be the one to choke. And for the second time in his career, Randy Moss was in the Super Bowl against the Baltimore Ravens, the Harbaugh Bowl. This was it. Randy Moss's final opportunity to win a Super Bowl. Could he finally win the big one with the Niners and call himself a Super Bowl champion? Well, this Super Bowl was pretty interesting. The Ravens dominated the first half with a 28-6 lead. That halftime show with Beyonce was amazing, by the way. And then a fucking blackout happened. Jacoby Jones immediately returned a kickoff for a touchdown at the start of the second half. And then somehow the 49ers rallied. For a period, they outscored Baltimore 25-6, and they had a chance to take the lead. Down 34-29, the 49ers drove down the field to the Baltimore 7 just before the 2-minute warning, and with 1 minute and 50 seconds left to play, it was 4th and goal. Gotta score here, or it's all over.
Walks it in the air. No flag, incomplete.
Man, you talk about controversy. The refs didn't throw a flag, even though there was clear contact with Crabtree and Smith. And just like that, it was turnover on downs. In the final seconds of the game, Sam Koch was pushed out of bounds in his own end zone for a safety. They punted and Ted Ginn was stopped. Game over. The 49ers lost 34-31. Oh yeah, Moss only had 2 receptions for 41 yards. Nobody cares about that. But that was it. That was the end of the 49ers season, and that would be Randy Moss's final game. Moss would announce that he wouldn't return to the 49ers for the 2013 season, officially retiring for the second time. For good. He was done. It sucks, man. This man should have won a Super Bowl. It's crazy to think he didn't. But he will always go down in history as one of the greatest wide receivers to ever play the sport of football. Well, that'll do it for this video. God damn, it took me a while to get this one finished. What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments below and I'll respond to your comment if I want to. If you made it this far, you're a real one and I appreciate it. Thanks for watching.